What if I told you the richest author in the world was once a single mother living on welfare, writing in cafes because she couldn't afford to heat her flat?
Child at the time, so I was probably a little more sensitive than usual about things to do with small children. And I was reading a newspaper.
That's not a made-up story. That's J.K. Rowling. Before the fame, before the billions, before Harry Potter, there was struggle, heartbreak, and rejection. But she didn't quit. She kept writing.
Jump for me was the American advance, which was enough for me to buy a house, not outright, but we'd been renting until then. And I didn't feel guilty.
And in doing so, she created a global phenomenon that reshaped publishing, film, and childhood itself. In this video, we're breaking down how J.K. Rowling went from rock bottom to literary royalty in 12 powerful moments. Her story isn't just inspiring. It's proof that magic is real when you refuse to give up. J.K. Rowling grew up in a modest home in England, surrounded by books. By age 6, she was already writing fantasy stories, reading anything she could get her hands on. She wasn't the loudest kid in the room, but inside, her imagination was wild. Her mother was supportive, but her father was distant, and family life wasn't always easy. Still, books became her escape. By the time she got to university, Rowling was studying French, but writing remained her obsession. The dream, to be a published author. No connections, no shortcuts. Just a girl with a pen and a big imagination. The spark was there. It just needed time, pain, and persistence to become a flame. After college, Rowling moved to Portugal to teach English. There, she married, had a daughter, and watched the relationship fall apart. The marriage lasted just over a year. Soon after, she returned to the UK as a single mother, battling depression and grief. Her mother had passed away from multiple sclerosis and never got to see the book Rowling was working on. She described herself as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless, struggling to feed her baby, living on government assistance, and feeling like a failure. Rowling was at rock bottom. But in that darkness, something kept her going. A story about a boy wizard who didn't know who he really was. Yet, Rowling didn't have a fancy office or a writing retreat.
And I did once have a conversation in which he quite rightly said that the Potter novels are, in the main, whodunits.
She wrote Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in cafes, pushing her baby in a stroller, ordering one coffee, and staying for hours. She scribbled scenes on napkins, old notebooks, and loose paper. Why cafes? Her flat was cold, and she could only afford to heat it for a few hours a day. Writing was her escape, her therapy. It was messy, chaotic, and exhausting, but the story kept growing. She poured her pain into the characters and gave Harry a resilience she was fighting to keep alive in herself. Every chapter was a step forward, even when everything around her was falling apart. Once she finished the manuscript, Rowling sent it to publishers. One after another, they said no. 12 rejections in total. Some didn't even reply. Others said kids wouldn't read a book that long or that fantasy didn't sell. But Rowling didn't stop. She believed in Harry, Ron, and Hermione, even when no one else did. Finally, a small publisher, Bloomsbury, took a chance. The chairman's 8-year-old daughter read the first chapter and begged for more. That moment changed everything. But the first print run, just 500 copies, no big launch, no media buzz, just a quiet beginning for what would become the most successful book series of all time. Once Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone hit shelves in 1997, something magical happened. Kids didn't just read it, they devoured it. Word spread fast. The second and third books launched with more buzz. By the time the fourth book came out, fans were camping outside bookstores. Harry Potter became a global obsession. Translated into dozens of languages, sold in the hundreds of millions.
Criteria if you let it. So I think it fair to say that by any conventional measure, a mere 7 years after my graduation day, I had failed on an epic.
The series created a generation of readers. Rowling wasn't just a writer anymore. She was a literary rock star. But she never lost control. She kept full creative authority and made sure the books stayed true to her vision, even as the empire around them exploded. In 1999, Warner Bros. Bought the film rights to the first 4 Harry Potter books for around $100 million. It was a big deal, not just for the money, but for the creative control Rowling secured. She had final say on casting, locations, and scripts. She refused to let the movies Americanize Hogwarts or change core elements of the story. When the first film released in 2001, it smashed records and launched one of the most successful movie franchises in history. But Rowling wasn't just collecting checks, she was building a world. The books drove the films drove the books, and together, they built a cultural empire. As Harry Potter mania took over the world, Rowling stayed surprisingly grounded. She kept living in Edinburgh. She stayed hands-on with the writing. And she used her platform to speak about mental health, depression, and the importance of storytelling. Fame didn't make her forget the struggle. In interviews, she openly talked about her years on welfare, the loneliness, and how close she came to giving up. That honesty made her relatable, not just a celebrity, but a survivor. Rowling wasn't trying to be a brand. She was just trying to tell the truth, one story at a time. And fans connected with that, just as much as they connected with the magic. After the books and films, Rowling expanded the universe, but on her own terms. She launched Pottermore, an online platform to keep the stories alive and deepen fan engagement. She wrote companion books like Fantastic Beasts and Quidditch Through the Ages, with profits going to charity. She approved a theme park, stage plays, spin-offs. But everything had to meet her standards. She wasn't chasing money, she was protecting the world she built. And in doing so, she turned Harry Potter into more than a book or a film series. It became an ecosystem, a culture, a brand worth billions, rooted in a single mother's imagination. By the mid-2000s, Rowling hit a milestone no other author had ever reached billionaire status. Book sales, movie profits, licensing, merchandise, and theme park royalties pushed her net worth into the stratosphere. She could have stopped there. But instead, she gave much of it away. Rowling is one of the most generous philanthropists in the UK. She's donated to children's welfare, medical research, and single-parent causes. In fact, she's dropped off the billionaire list more than once because of her giving. But that's part of the story. She didn't write Harry Potter to get rich. She wrote it because she had to. The money came after. The passion came first. In recent years, Rowling has faced backlash over comments related to gender identity, which many see as hurtful to the transgender community. It sparked massive online debates, divided fans, and led to calls for boycotts. Some of the Harry Potter cast members have publicly disagreed with her. It's complicated. For many, it's hard to reconcile the author they once admired with the views she now holds. This chapter of her story is still unfolding, and it's a reminder that fame doesn't protect you from criticism, and legacy is always evolving. Rowling remains powerful, polarizing, and unfiltered. And whether you agree with her or not, her influence on culture is undeniable. Even after Harry Potter, Rowling didn't stop writing. Under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith, she launched a series of crime novels, gritty, adult, and totally different from Hogwarts. The books got strong reviews, especially once her true identity was revealed. Some fans followed her, others didn't. But it didn't matter. Rowling wasn't writing to please people. She was writing because that's what she does. Her post-Potter work shows that even after building an empire, she's still a writer first. Still driven by curiosity, still chasing characters, and still willing to take creative risks, even when they don't pay off with headlines or hype. At the end of the day, J.K. Rowling's story isn't just about books or money. It's about not quitting. She wrote through depression, rejection, poverty, and loss, and turned her pain into magic. The single mother on welfare didn't just become a successful author. She became the most successful author. Her story has inspired millions, not just to read, but to write, to believe that rock bottom isn't the end. It's the start of something real, something powerful, something that could change your life, and maybe the world. Rowling didn't just imagine a magical universe, she built one, and she did it one word at a time. J.K. Rowling's journey proves that it's not where you start, it's what you do when everything tells you to quit. Her story is about grit, rejection, imagination, and relentless belief in her work. Whether you love her, criticize her, or wrestle with both, her impact is undeniable. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone chasing their own dream, and drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because there's more real, raw, and unforgettable journeys just like this. Thanks for watching, and remember, rock bottom can be the foundation of something magical.